Most homeowners assume a pipe leaking after only 10 or 15 years means they got unlucky with bad copper. Almost nobody's been told that the metal was rarely the real problem. The damp air sitting around it for years was. So what happens when someone who's watched identical pipes age completely differently in two houses finally explains exactly why and what actually changes it? My name is Suda Chan. I've spent years around both traditional Japanese home construction and modern plumbing repair, which means I've seen the same copper pipe, same age, same water supply, behave completely differently, depending on one thing nobody thinks to check. I want to tell you about two houses on the same street because they're the reason I stopped believing pipe material alone tells you anything. Both houses were repiped with copper the same year. One developed a pinhole leak behind a bathroom wall within 11 years, water staining down through the ceiling below before anyone noticed. The other, same copper, same city water, is still leak-free well past 20 years. The difference wasn't the pipe. It was the crawl space underneath each house. One sat damp and stagnant year-round. The other had been actively managed for moisture since the day it was built, the traditional way. That's not a bad luck problem. That's an air problem. Homeowners spend all their attention on what's flowing through a pipe and never once think about what's sitting around the outside of it. But condensation and trapped humidity in a crawl space or wall cavity is genuinely one of the biggest drivers of early external corrosion, quietly working on a pipe for years before anyone sees a drop of water. Quick word before I go further. The old methods my family uses, there is more of it than fits in any one video. I gathered the whole of it into a book you can buy in our pinned comment below. The book is the long version. If you want it, it is there. I will not mention it again. Here's the truth that should reframe how you think about this. There are really two separate enemies working against your pipes, and almost nobody separates them. The first is internal water chemistry, acidic or hard water, certain disinfectants, slowly eating the pipe from the inside. The second is external moisture. Damp crawl space air condensing on the outside of the pipe or getting trapped under poorly sealed insulation, corroding it from the outside in. Traditional Japanese home construction has spent generations solving the second one, brilliantly. It does nothing for the first. Knowing which enemy you're actually dealing with changes everything about how you fix it. Let's start with the one this method actually solves. The first step is simply understanding which enemy you're facing, because the fix is completely different depending on the answer. If you're seeing blue-green staining on the outside of a copper pipe, that's typically external corrosion, moisture in the air around it. If you're getting pinhole leaks with no visible outside staining, especially near elbows and fittings, that often points to internal water chemistry instead. The trick is not assuming it's automatically one or the other, because treating a water chemistry problem like a moisture problem, or the other way around, wastes real time and money. The second step is ventilation, and it's the foundation everything else in this method is built on. Traditional Japanese homes are built with a raised floor and a genuine underfloor gap, allowing outside air to actually move through the crawl space instead of sitting there stagnant and humid. If your crawl space has vents, the trick is confirming they're actually clear and open, not blocked by insulation, storage boxes, or years of debris, because a sealed, stagnant crawl space is exactly the damp environment that accelerates external pipe corrosion in the first place. The third step is the traditional piece most people have never heard of, charcoal. Specifically, binchotan, a dense hardwood charcoal that's been used under Japanese floors for generations as a passive moisture absorber because it's naturally porous and pulls ambient humidity out of the surrounding air. You can find activated charcoal moisture absorbers sold for crawl spaces and closets for around $15 to $25 a bag now. And the trick is placement. Setting bags directly in the crawl space, near where pipes run, not just anywhere in the space, since it's working on the air immediately around it, not the whole volume of the room at once. It needs replacing or recharging in sunlight every few months as it saturates, which is genuinely the whole maintenance schedule. The fourth step is insulating the pipe correctly, because done wrong, insulation makes this entire problem worse instead of better. Pipe insulation that isn't properly sealed at the seams lets humid air in, where it then gets trapped against the pipe with nowhere to escape, which is worse than no insulation at all. The trick is sealing every seam and joint in foam pipe insulation with the manufacturer's tape, not just wrapping it loosely and in genuinely damp climates, using a proper vapor barrier wrap on top of the insulation, rather than skipping that step to save a few dollars. The fifth step is turning to the other enemy, water chemistry, because no amount of ventilation and charcoal touches this one. A basic water hardness and pH test kit costs around $10 to $15 at any hardware store and tells you within minutes whether your water is acidic, alkaline, or carrying heavy mineral content, all of which drive internal pinhole corrosion regardless of how dry your crawlspace is. The trick is testing this before you spend money assuming moisture is your whole problem, because if your water itself is aggressive, a water softener or a whole house filtration adjustment is the actual fix, not more charcoal. The sixth step is the one that replaces hoping with knowing. Walk your crawl space or check under-sink cabinets a few times a year, feeling pipe joints and elbows for dampness, looking for that blue-green staining, checking that charcoal bags aren't fully saturated. The trick is doing this on an actual calendar reminder. Twice a year is plenty, rather than waiting for a ceiling stain to force the issue, because by the time you see water damage, the corrosion behind it has usually been building for a long time already. Those are the 6 steps. Know which enemy, moisture, or water chemistry you're actually facing. Confirm your crawl space is genuinely ventilated, not sealed and stagnant. Place charcoal moisture absorbers directly near your pipes and recharge them regularly. Insulate pipes with every seam properly sealed, adding a vapor barrier in damp climates. Test your water's hardness and pH, rather than assuming moisture explains everything. And check on a real schedule instead of waiting for a stain to tell you something's wrong. Here's the bigger picture, and it's what I want you to actually take with you. This was never about one product or one trick. It's about treating the space around your pipes as part of your home's ongoing health, the same quiet, generational habit that's kept traditional Japanese homes dry and their plumbing sound for decades at a time. The houses that go the longest without a pipe failure aren't the ones that got lucky with better copper. They're the ones that stayed dry year after year on purpose. So here's what I want you to do tonight, not next week, tonight. Check your crawl space access or the cabinet under your kitchen sink right now. Feel for dampness, look for staining, see if the air smells musty. That 5-minute check will tell you more about your real risk than anything else on this list. Tell me in the comments what kind of pipes your home has and how old they are. And if you check your crawl space tonight, come back and tell me what you found. I read every single one. Next time, I'm going to show you the one spot under a kitchen sink almost every homeowner forgets to check, where a slow leak can run for months completely unnoticed.